And this film will help people understand that PrEP is not just about taking pills. If implemented properly, PrEP could be a part of a comprehensive health package that can positively impact HIV-negative, gay men's sexual and mental health in a way that we haven't seen before in the past 3 decades of our response to HIV. I'd like to thank Sheena McCormack and Mitzi Gaffos for commissioning me to produce the documentary, the Medical Research Council for funding the production, and all of the interviewees who contributed to the film. I'd like to especially thank all the participants in the PrEPared study for volunteering to be part of this very, very important trial. It has already made many stakeholders see the true potential of PrEP. And I'd like to thank the 3 participants who volunteered to share their very personal PrEP experiences in the film, Greg, Charlie, and Zia. I know that your voices, your stories will make a difference to many gay men around the world.
The question goes to Greg. Now, I was taken, Greg, by the fact that in the film, you and Charlie and Zia all spoke about PrEP and reducing your anxiety. I think you said it gives you peace of mind. Can you tell us a bit more about what that's about for you? Can you expand on that a little more?
Well, I think I touched upon that in the film as well. That I've been around quite a while, obviously, and I remember pre-AIDS. I remember what it was like pre-HIV when we didn't have to use condoms. No gay men used condoms. And sex didn't have any anxiety attached to it. The only thing that you had to worry about was maybe getting some unwelcome bit of gonorrhea or something, and that was easy looked after if you went to the clinic. And then this terrible thing happened, and suddenly the sex we had was no longer pleasurable. It was the transmission route for a deadly disease. And that changed everything. It changed everything for me. I almost gave up having sex altogether for a very, very long time. And I've lived through all that. And we started to take on the condom message. And we started to have sex, but sex was never as fun. It was never fun anymore because always at the back of my mind was this little thing saying, you know, be careful, you could get HIV. And many of my friends were succumbing to HIV. And of course later on, when it stopped being a death sentence, when we knew that nobody actually wanted it, but it wasn't so bad. You could, if you got it, well, you wouldn't die. Then maybe that's when we started to take the odd risk here and there. But still, every time I did, the shame that came with it, not just fear, not just worry about what I'd done, but the shame. Oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? I've had sex without a condom. That's all gone. I don't have that worry anymore, because that's what PrEP is. It's pre-exposure prophylaxis. I'm still protected. And that's the biggest thing about anxiety. It's just gone. And for me at the moment, I think it's a great thing, and it makes me feel much better about my sex life.
Firstly, thanks for asking about Ipecac, because that was sort of PrEP's sister study, as it were, PrEPared sister study. And it's in many ways an amazing study, because I don't know if you know how it works. Basically, it was a study of intermittent PrEP, and it was a placebo-controlled study, very controversial, because it was something that nobody had ever tried before. So they had to try it against dummy pills. And what they did was that they told the participants, all the French gay men, a few in Quebec, very similar group to the PrEPared guys, if you think you're going to have sex, then take a double dose of Truvada 2 to 12 hours before you think you're going to have sex, okay? And then if you actually do have sex, if you strike it lucky, take 1 dose 2 to 12 hours after sex, and then another dose the following day. So it's a sort of 4-dose regime. And I remember thinking that is never going to work. It's going to be far too complicated to remember. They'll never get it right. And it's probably too weak anyway. And what not only did it worked, the effectiveness was 86%, exactly the same as by PrEPared, and that is so exciting, because what it means is that not just PrEP works, but PrEP works in all sorts of different ways. It's an incredibly robust and resilient technique. You know, you can, and so you should be able to change it around and help people use it in a way that fits in with their life and their schedule, you know. So I think that's very exciting. IPAGAY is a great study, and they also did a lot of investigation into the sort of sex lives of their participants and when they were taking PrEP and when they weren't. So that's really good. In terms of where we're at with the NHS, I and a couple of other people in this room are on the body that's actually kind of trying to thrash out what the criteria are going to be for PrEP, because you can't give it to everybody. And even if people generally sort themselves out, and the people who come, as turned out with PrEPared, and has turned out to be the case in the States, are the people that actually really do need it. Nonetheless, the NHS want to know they're not wasting their money. And there is an ethical issue. If you give PrEP to someone who really isn't going to catch HIV anyway, then basically the risk they're running is the risk of side effects rather than the risk of HIV. So there will always need to be some sort of criteria. So we're trying to battle that through at the moment. And the great thing about IPAGAY is that it offers the chance of PrEP being half price. And believe you me, money is at the root of what we're talking about in terms of availability at the moment. So watch this space, basically. I have every faith that PrEP will become available on the NHS and reasonably soon, that there will be criteria.
And I always add, when talking about IPAGAY, that it did show this high level of effectiveness in the whole study group. But the guys in this study basically had so much sex, because that's what they were chosen for, to be part of that study, that in the end, in average, they took 4 Truvada per week, so it seems like they had sex at least once a week, and that 4 Truvada per week is probably enough to protect you from acquiring HIV. We've known that since the IPEX study a few years ago. So because I know there are already people taking PrEP, you know, they just get some Truvada from friends or whatever. What we just don't know is, does it actually work if you just want to use it once? You know, like the guy of your dreams comes to London and he says, okay, this one time without a condom, and you do the 2 before, 1 after. We don't really know if that works. It's probably quite likely that it works, because they didn't just come up, oh yeah, let's try 2 and 2. That's down to, you know, they did tests in animals, basically, seeing how the ingredients get into the cells. So it might work, but we don't really have the data. And I'm sometimes a bit worried that this IPAGAY regimen is so pushed because it's cheaper. Yeah, but just beware, we don't have the data that works on a one-off method.
Well, I don't know whether I'm one of the lucky ones, but I've actually had no side effects at all. I take the pill every day, I don't get nausea, I don't get sick, I don't have weird dreams. I did for the first couple of days. They were quite nice actually, I quite enjoyed them. But apart from that, nothing. And it's honestly just like taking my vitamins in the morning. Take an extra pill, take a Truvada. That's the only effect it has on me, nothing.
Charlie?
Most we know from long-term side effects is, of course, from people who've taken it as HIV treatment. And the answer is tenofovir. Enterocytopine, virtually no side effects. You have to be very unlucky. Tenofovir does have long-term side effects. The 2 things it does is that it's associated with a certain loss of bone mineral density. It gives you mild osteopenia, meaning that some of the calcium leaks out of your bones, okay? The other thing it does, and this is probably the one people are most concerned with this, is it does produce a temporary drop in kidney function for some people. There's a very small risk of acute side effects, but there are with any drug. You know, that's why I said to you, giving PrEP to a really, really low prevalence population would not be ethical. So, what's happened in PrEP? Well, funnily enough, the most data we have is from the one trial of PrEP that I absolutely agree was unethical, which was the Bangkok tenofovir study amongst injecting drug users. But because that was a long study, it was over 5 years, okay? And what happened in that study, now I'm getting figures from the back of my head here, so don't quote me on this. But there was something like a 2% greater increase in the number of people who had chronic kidney disease severe enough for them to have to come off tenofovir. And once they came off tenofovir, that resolved. The same was true of bone mineral density. So yes, we are talking about things that are real, but we're not talking about things that have a big clinical impact, especially if you're only going to be on PrEP a couple of years or something. The resistance thing, I'm glad you asked me that, the drug resistance thing. Drug resistance with PrEP is going to be very rare because there's only one circumstance under which it could happen, and that would be if you actually had HIV without knowing it at the point you started taking PrEP. Because without any HIV around in your body, you're not going to get drug resistance. So by definition, 99.9% of time, you won't get drug resistance because it will bat off the HIV. There is perhaps 1 in 1,000 of HIV viruses circulating which has the particular mutation to PrEP that might mean PrEP doesn't work, and there's possibly one case in one of the African heterosexual studies where that might have happened, but it's going to be very, very rare. Somebody else? About patents, and this is going to be really important. At the moment, yes, we do have to pay Gilead full price or negotiated price for PrEPared because they're the patent holders. It varies from country to country, but as far as I know, in 2017 at least, the patent on tenofovir, which is the sort of the more important of the two drugs, goes. That may mean that the price of PrEPared may drop by about 50% at the time, and that will bring a lot more people into the possible sort of participants of PrEP, because that will make it more cost effective. But it would need to fall by about 80%, which is the amount that the price of efavirenz, the HIV drug, has dropped, for it to become cost effective for your average gay man. And that's probably unlikely to happen until 2021 or something. So it will be a graduated introduction. Okay?
Thank you. Does anyone want to respond to resistance within our communities to PrEP? Nicholas? Yeah.
It's happening all around the world. These discussions, pro and contra PrEP. Rest assured, here in the UK, you're miles ahead. I'm from Germany, and I've just been to the German-Austrian AIDS Congress, and we had a discussion like this, and there were people like screaming, "Oh God, no, and no one will use condoms anymore." So it'll take several years till Germany will get PrEP. And I think it's basically because PrEP is quite complex. It's just not as easy as use a condom. So it usually takes me 30 minutes to explain PrEP to someone. And then it takes that person from, "Oh no, why would I want to do that?" And "No, oh, the side effects are no, I could just use condoms." It takes that person about half a year till they come back to me and ask me, "Where can I get PrEPared?" And so it's my film, but with this film, you have actually just heard a lot of very good information on PrEP, and I think a lot of people who are very much against PrEP just haven't really heard that information or thought about it. So often I hear, "Why would I want to take pills to prevent having to take, the same pills actually?" And you know, that's what PrEP is about. It's like, if we do it right, it gives us so much more opportunities in gay and sexual health. And I think another reason is because, of course, it doesn't really challenge the condom, but you know, the condom has been the one thing for the past 30 years. You know, it's become the kind of standard. A good gay man fucks with a condom. And if we don't, oh my God. And so that's why, well, in Germany I always phrase it like, let's extend the term safer sex. It's not just condoms anymore, but it's treatment, when it's also prevention, and now it's PrEP. So, you know, science advances, and so does safer sex.
Greg, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that when I first came out taking PrEP, I did get a lot of resistance and a lot of mud thrown at me, which surprised me actually, because when I first idea to me that this was such a great thing. Now I look at it and I can understand to a degree, because we have taken on the condom message to such an extent that we believe that this is the only way. And for there are plenty of people, and I'm sure there are people here, who don't have a problem with condoms, and that's fantastic. If you don't have you don't have any trouble with condoms and you want to continue using them, that's great, carry on. But there are people who are challenged by condoms. Condoms do have side effects. People think they don't. Well, erectile dysfunction is a side effect. If you can't have sex with condoms because you lose your erection every time, it is a side effect. So for those of us, and some of us, who have problems using condoms, then PrEP is fantastic, but it doesn't have to be for everybody.
Okay, so if you ask yourself, so what can you do to get access to PrEP? I always tell everybody, we need to create that demand. A lot of people need to hear that we want PrEP, and we want it now, and we want the cost covered by our healthcare system. So spread the information, talk with friends about it. Yeah, that's the best thing you can do right now.
Thank you, Nicholas.